Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Joan, and we're in story time. So I'm going to read the story of Rapunzel. So sit back, enjoy, get a nice comfortable spot, and get a lovey or a pillow or whatever, and sit back and enjoy the story. Okay, this is Rapunzel. One day, a prince was riding in the forest when he heard a girl singing. He got down from his horse and led him quietly along a mossy footpath until he came to a clearing. In the clearing was a tower, as round as straight as a giant pine tree. At the very top of the tower, which was so tall it looked as though its roof was touching the sky, there was a tiny window. It was from the tiny window that the sound of the voice was coming. "It will be a long climb up the stairs to the top," said the prince, shading his eyes and looking upwards. "But I must find out who is singing so sweetly." He looped the horse's bridle over a branch and went to look for a way in. He could find no door, no window, no hidden entrance. It was impossible to climb up the outside, for the sides were so smooth there was neither crack nor ledge where he could put his feet. In the end, the disappointed prince had to give up his quest and ride home with the sound of the voice drifting in the wind. The prince could not forget the voice. He dreamed about it in daydreams and dreamed about it in his sleep. He rode into the forest every day just to hear it. One day, when he was sitting in the branches of the tree closest to the tower, an old witch came out of the forest. The prince kept very quiet and watched to see what she would do. She went to the foot of the tower and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Immediately, a long braid of golden hair tumbled from the window at the top of the tower. It was so long, its tip touched the ground. The old witch caught hold of it as though it were a rope, and someone in the room at the top of the tower pulled her upwards until she disappeared. The prince was so excited he almost fell out of the tree. He waited until the old witch had come down again and hobbled away into the forest. Then he went to the foot of the tower himself. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel," he called, "let down your hair." Again, the golden hair came tumbling from the tower, but this time it was a handsome prince who used it as a rope and not the ugly old witch. In the tiny room at the top of the tower was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Who are you?" she gasped as he climbed over the windowsill and into the room. "I thought you were the witch." "Do not be afraid," said the prince. "I will not hurt you." He told her his name and how he had heard her singing when he was riding in the forest. "I sing because I'm lonely," said Rapunzel. "I have been locked away in this tower since I was 12 years old. My only visitor is the witch who brought me here." "I will help you escape," said the prince. "But how can you?" sighed Rapunzel. "I cannot climb down my own hair, and there is no other way in or out of the tower." "I will bring you a silken ladder," said the prince. That evening, the old witch visited Rapunzel again. "You are much heavier than the prince," said Rapunzel, without thinking of the consequence of her words. "Why is that?" The witch was so angry she almost exploded. She had locked Rapunzel in the tower to keep her away from handsome princes. She wanted Rapunzel to love no one in the world but herself. She snatched a pair of scissors from the table, and before Rapunzel could stop her, she had cut off her long braids of golden hair. Oh, goodness. "Now your prince will never get into the tower," screamed the witch. And then, because she was really very angry indeed, she banished Rapunzel to a faraway place. Even if the prince did find a way into the tower, Rapunzel would not be there. The prince had no way of knowing what had happened, of course, and the next day when he called to Rapunzel to let down her hair, he thought it was she who threw the long golden braids over the windowsill. But it was not. It was the witch. It was the witch who pulled the prince upwards and upwards and upwards. "You will never see Rapunzel again," she screamed, as the prince looked over the windowsill and into her ugly face. And with that terrible cry, she let go of the braids so that they and the prince fell to the ground. The prince was bumped and bruised, and when at last he stirred and opened his eyes, he could not see. He was blind. The prince thought Rapunzel was locked in the tower with the witch, and though he tried, he could find no way of helping her. He wandered about the countryside, blind, lonely, and unhappy. But then, one day, just by chance, he came to the place where Rapunzel was living. He heard her singing, and though her voice was as sad as a flower without petals, he recognized it at once. Rapunzel, he called softly, is that you? Rapunzel was overjoyed, but when she saw the prince's poor blind eyes, she wept hot, splashing tears. Now, some of her tears fell onto the prince's face, and suddenly he could see again. Her tears had broken the witch's terrible spell. Rapunzel and the prince were married, and they lived happily ever after. And as for the old witch, well, she was never heard of or seen again. Perhaps she's still locked in the tower. Once she had let go of the braids, she had no way of getting out of the tower herself now, had she? So happily ever after, like all fairy tales. And that's thumbs up story for me. How about you?